The e-girl healer usually guards their boyfriends, never letting them go. Usually extremely cunty and bitchy, or surprisingly nice. Comes in male forms too, that are also cunts, that never die. Usually spams Breath of Life or mutagen on a Templar, but they are a wide variety breed. The duelist, usually very egocentric and competitive, run extremely cheesy builds, calling others cheesy when they lose. Sweaty ones will change their build and class to come find and expose you. Can be found in Stormhaven, the Rift, Auradon, or in random places. Also comes in noob form when they find a new build they think will be OP. Usually hates people who open world and thinks dueling is the one true form of skill. Some duelists, however, are very kind and helpful and very humble, with honor and respect. Duelist culture usually involves no removable potions in duels, but most people don't give a shit. Duelists usually compose of extremely hard-hitting builds that burst you into heaven, or consist of extremely tanky low damage and high sustain builds that are afraid of losing and wait for you to make a mistake and get too aggressive. Every class thinks theirs is the weakest, but like to say that to make themselves feel better about poor performance half the time. The bomber came to be when new sets were introduced to the game and builds were created by clever players. Chooses to 1vx by instantly killing groups by surprise instead of conventional fast tanking attrition. Usually found solo but can also be found in groups. Hated by much of the community, especially during media mayhem when people come to PvP and are preyed upon when trying to exploit the event. The Fart Cloud tank came to be when clever build theorists found ways to infinitely use mist form. Usually extremely tanky and like to waste people's time. Often found in places with large volumes of people. There are a variety of different classes, but all the same becoming a Fart Cloud. Usually hated by the community for being near impossible to kill without high enough DPS outputs, and for being low skill high reward types of builds. Usually stalls out groups of people for other groups to come and kill them or distracts them from their original goal. Usually comedic loving to see people get frustrated. The useless tank. Similar to the Fart Cloud, they enjoy wasting people's time, but tend to die much easier than them. This usually consists of players that just hold LT until they die, but also come in more annoying variations that also spam CCS, boots, and debuffs on you to be annoying. Can be found everywhere and are usually run by players that are more comedic than serious. Usually, they are tanky, but can also come in Noob variations that die once their stamina quickly runs up or are not tanky enough to handle much damage. The Furry. These people enjoy being werewolves because they are furries. These tags come in many variations, but most notably are found as the annoying and tanky white werewolf. In large groups they are hard to deal with and tend to be either extremely tanky or hit really hard. They usually smell really bad and either run as a lone wolf or in a pack, no pun intended. These tags of people are extremely weak to poison damage and are largely hated by the community for having overpowered passives and annoying roots and CCs. They usually have trouble when dealing with lethal arrows, Snipe Spammers and Stamina Dragon Knights. They have been strong in every patch and in some extremely broken and similar in tankiness to the Fart Cloud tank while retaining their damage to maul people. The friend you find randomly. They are always trash and deserve to be ulti-dumped. Assert your dominance as the champ. The Weird Zerglings. More research needs to be done on these mysterious, hard-minded creatures. The Ballgroupers, usually a group of friends that are decently skilled, run AoE builds usually, and found mostly near or inside towers, buildings and flag points. They usually prey on weaker organized group as they are much more organized, much like a PVE group. Usually consists of people who have been Eskimo brothers or touched kids or kissed at some point. Usually hates Zerglings and likewise hated by Zerg hive minds. Usually are hard to separate and are better left alone if you are not also in a ball group. The Noob usually comes to the game thinking it will be like Skyrim, but get shit on by everything. Comes in many varieties, but most notably players who are low level and in heavy Breton or heavy Elven armor. Very adorable and quite random. These types of people are full of wonder and exploration, always learning something new, but also getting picked on frequently. They enjoy using skills they think look flashy and cool, but also panic very easily when in danger. The Siege Patriot goes to kicks with many siege to flag a keep preventing spawning and teleporting. These sticks are hated for ruining people's PvP experience. The Douchebag. These people love to pick on people like bullies, ruining people's PvP experience when they can. Often take joy in others people's pain and thrive off of anger or hate. The Random Skill Spammer. These people tend to use skills at random times that tend to somehow work out for them. They usually will always have some random skill to use or spam, making them annoying for Nightblades usually. These include CC's revealing skills, heals and ultimates. The Streaker. A sorcerer who usually spams streak to separate groups by outrunning them or to be annoying and frustrating to people as a distraction, falls in the category of a kiter who use the environment to be unhittable. The Spin to Win. Usually people who spam the skill Whirlwind after an ultimate or when they see low health players. These players take advantage of a skill that is a hard-hitting AoE execute to kill you. Usually hit extremely hard and fun in all places. Hated for being clean up dicks and having a low risk high reward playstyle. If you turn your attention to the top left of the screen, this dickhead ruined this bomb by purchasing a set called Dark Convergence at an inconvenient time. These people usually appear out of the blue doing a random thing to ruin what you were planning to do only to die shortly afterward. Usually these are players that copy builds from YouTube but use them unskillfully, messing things up more than doing any good. If you turn your attention to the top left, you can see an elusive heavy attack spammer, usually done with a lightning staff. The Teabagger. These dickheads teabag everything that dies. Usually want to frustrate you or are frustrated with you. The Ganker. Choosing to instead utilize full damage tactics to quickly kill other players instead of conventional attrition methods. These players choose to avoid conventional conflict. These players came to be when players figured out ways to abuse damage stacking in order to burst down enemies and sometimes even one-shot them. Hated by the community for being considered low skill and annoying. Come in wide varieties, most notably using PROC sets for extra damage. Usually fun solo but can also be fun in packs hidden. Can easily be dispatched of if you survive the initial damage. Usually panics if they fail and often prey on squishier players with little health. The Cross Alliance Ally. Players that know each other across alliances usually avoid attacking each other, instead helping. Hated by patriots. The Defenseless Healer. Adorable people who usually have no offense abilities. These people like to protect. The Snipe Spammer. Spams lethal arrow or focused aim, usually as a lower skill way of ganking. Hated by the community for being very annoying, like mosquito. Pain comes in many forms. The person that never gets reached. Forgotten players that are usually found dead in corners or abandoned out of sight places. Usually chooses to wait for an ally to help them, but usually ends up staying dead. The Skill Sponge. players who usually come out into the wrong place at the wrong time, taking the full damage of abilities not intended for them. The Rager gets very mad. The Furry spamming source. Usually, players that spam Mage's Fury in order to steal skills. Hated for being low skill and taking people's spotlight. The person that runs broken sets and exploits. These players choose to run sets of gear or utilize broken mechanics or status effects in order to have an advantage over other players. In this current day, it is the Oaken Soul DK that abuses major heroism for corrosive armor ultimate abuse. Historically hated for being considered cheap for cheaters. These types of people tend to be egocentric and secretive, or very arrogant, but also smart in figuring out ways to break game mechanics. Usually the reason for various changes in PvP. Revere. Look him up if you don't know who he is. The Opportunist. These players choose to kill people at the most convenient times. Hated for being annoying and unfair in their tactics. Usually are night blades, but are in large variety. Very annoying, but regardless clever. The people that ignore you. Usually friends or people that think you are annoying or harmless. They will not attack you unless provoked. The PVE Player. Usually adorable and squishy, but if underestimated still deadly. Will try to use PVE tactics by going full rotation on you, and if not taken seriously can kill you quickly. These players are very easy to kill, but if not taken seriously, also hit very hard. Usually found in groups or places they are able to properly survive. Often hated by the community for being useless in PvP, but also liked for having special agreements with PvP players at times. The Siege Flagger. Hated by the community for making people run more than actually play. Annoying and known for being patriotic. The Cloak Spammer. Night blades that spam cloak in order to escape. Annoying and sometimes hard to catch like rabbit. The one above all. Has supernatural abilities and powers we do not understand. The Panic Man. This type of players tends to panic quickly when faced with stressful situations or conflict. Found everywhere and will usually run as a first resort. Usually, these are low-level players or unskilled players. The Paranoid Player. Usually traumatized and overly cautious, most commonly caused by gankers. Tries to prevent any form of surprise. The Siege Monkey. These players usually use siege weapons to kill players rather than conventional methods. Usually unskilled but make up for it with high damage siege machinery. Can be found mostly in the fence or defense of keeps. The Squish Ball. Very easy to kill players known to bombers as VD procs, most notably found in low levels and PVE players. The Traitor. These players play for themselves and find the misfortunes of others in their alliance funny. Hated by patriots and can be found everywhere. The Thirsty player. Usually have low IQ minds, wanting to kill a wanted target as a priority. Often fall into traps and are overly aggressive. The Weirdo. These players have odd behaviors, found everywhere and usually confuse you and are unpredictable. The Roleplayer. These players enjoy having fun and do odd things. In this video we can see people pretending to be archers while sieging a keep. Found everywhere. The Harasser. These players will not leave you alone under any circumstance. Usually very upset players that have a personal vendetta on you, wanting to expose you. Usually have very large egos and anger issues, or are overly dedicated. Most common in noobs or extremely sweaty players. When angered they often make mistakes and are often killed when unaware of where they are when they are too focused on their kill. If they are upset with you they are happy with any way they can kill you, but if are killed come up with myriads of excuses on why they were killed. The 1vx player. Usually smart and highly skilled players that take advantage of lower skilled group players. Found alone and likes to fight groups. The Battleground Sweat. These players are similar to the 1vx player. Highly skilled players that like to fight groups of people by themselves but are open to help as well. Hard to kill and usually hit hard as well. Like the 1vx player they tend to be clever and take advantage of lower intelligence players. Usually all this is done while also doing what they can for the objective of the match, often leading the team to a victory with their contributions. The Bridge Troll. These players like to use the environment to kill other players. Most notably Atlasin the slaughterfish-infested waters under the Siege Bridge. Hated for being considered no skill and annoying to groups, they are often tanky. These types of players enjoy having fun in unconventional ways. Mostly found at the bridge by Siege outpost. In this video we can see a warden using the frozen gate skill to teleport players into the water where they are consumed by slaughterfish. These types of players come in a large variety though. They often take advantage of unsuspecting players and sometimes use game-breaking bugs to teleport chain or knock back enemies to their doom. The AFK Event Monkey. These players are usually found during mid-year mayhem, abusing AP gain by rubber banding their controllers in a hidden area inside or beside AP. Hated by the community for taking space in PvP during the event. Hi, thanks for watching the video. The last type of player is the montage compiler. Usually YouTubers that compile videos in order to give a community entertainment, information, or because they enjoy it. Usually, these videos are paired with music. Hope you enjoy the montage. For the end of this video, what are some PvP players you have come across?
I can't be alone here. I can't be the only one who feels like I'm going nowhere. Just wishing somehow this dream will carry me. And I'll swear just one last time. They say the world is yours, so I'ma make it mine. 'Cause nothing is stopping you. You can set the world on fire. Nothing is stopping you. And if I go out, I'll go out screaming. It's all or nothing. It's all or nothing. won't catch you now.
Saw your face reflected on the resin screen. Watched your mouth moving like a tired machine, trying to plead with me, trying to swallow me whole. I've been gone and away, and I watch your eyes reflect me in a terrible way as you cast your gaze to the flickering heart. And you knelt beside me and you started to pray in the words, your eyes blackened with the heart of decay, and you talked to me with a broken voice. When you open my eyes, silence me in your course. Bloody my eyes, dress me in your clothes. Swallow me whole, swallow me
something out